Ladies and gentlemen, we now present...
And I've been looking forward to tonight. Oh, by the way, good evening to you, those of you who've joined us in the last 10 minutes. I nearly forgot to tell you, my name's Kevin Kent, and I'm your host and compere.
Bob Monkhouse.
Of all the people in the business, I think Bob Monkhouse was the most accomplished.
He was the cabaret performer in this country.
He was a brilliant writer. He was a brilliant borrower because, of course, he searched every other comedian and used that as his training, which is what I did. I listened to other people and built on that and twisted their lines and did them myself.
He worked theatres, but he was so much better in cabaret, so much more intimate and very clever and erudite. And if you wanted an act for a private function, there was nobody better. That's really where he made his mark, you know, in corporate work.
But he was the most masterful comedian, no question. He was technically brilliant. What he could do, which almost beggars belief, he could do a joke as a totally weak and effeminate man and get a laugh on it. And then he could do a joke as the biggest, strongest, butchest guy in a club and get a laugh on that. And you didn't mind that he changed character totally and would change character 7, 8 different times. He would have a style when he was working for the girls.
When I first had to work with him, I didn't like the idea because I thought, I'd seen him on television and I thought, oh, he's a bit smarmy. I shouldn't say that really, but he was absolutely gorgeous.
Bob didn't like having another comedy act on the bill, and he just assumed I was a magician. But when he found out I did comedy, he said, I'm going to watch your act tonight, and which he did. And then he came to me and he said, I want you to promise me you won't change that at all. He said, because I can't watch you every night. And he said, now I know what you do. He said, that's fine. But he said, if you put something different in, he said, I might go on and do it. Because he said, my act is never twice alike. So he said, as long as you stick to that, we're fine. And I stuck to it and we were fine. And he was a lovely man. And if you got him talking about movies, I mean, he knew every bit part player. He knew everything. He was just phenomenal, his knowledge on, and a nice man.
I worked with Bob Monkhouse at the Golden Garter, and he did ask me to go to South Africa with him, a show he was taking out there. But again, I was a newly married lady, and it was more important at the time that I was with my husband.
But when you used to go and watch a comedian or a comedy show band, there's no way you could sink everything in. You know, by the time they've told 10 or 15 gags, you're trying to remember something, they've all gone. So I used to take a little tape recorder with me and I'd stick it somewhere in the club that would then pick up the act on the night, and then I could play it back when I got home the next day and remember, I remember that gag, I'll use that one and that one. And the list of acts that I used to tape are just, you know, it's this long. And I've still got the majority of the tapes today. The only time I ever got caught with my little tape machine was recording Bob Monkhouse.
So one of the acts that obviously worked there was a guy called Bob Monkhouse, who was a household name.
Bob Monkhouse.
Brilliant man, lovely man. Before we worked with him, we'd seen him 10 years before. That was when our wives were with us and kids, and they were very young, etc. And it was some do in London, and we had the families there, and we introduced them to him. And then I saw Bob 10 years later at this gig we were working. He said, oh, lovely to be working with you. He said, how are you, Rob? He said, how are you? How's Avril, and how's Janine and Richard and Graham? He said, how's Victoria and Joshua? And he remembered all their names. I said, how can you remember? He remembered everything. If only I could remember the act, I'd be happy. Amazing memory that man had.
Bob Monkhouse, of course, now, to me, as a comedian, he is legendary. I mean, he was brilliant, that's all I can say about him. I did the Golden Shot with him, and he was so quick and very clever, very, you know, I mean, and I used to sit and talk to him about the old movie, you know, Buster Keaton and all that, and because, you know, with Malcolm Mitchell, with Monkhouse Mitchell, they had all those Laurel and Hardy films and everything. He was an amazing man.
I was recording him, it was at the Talk of the North, and it was absolutely hammered this night, yeah, and it was very, very busy, and I had nowhere to put my tape recorder. So I've just got a little bit too cocky, and I put it on top of the speaker which is at the side of the stage on the PA, and one of the bouncers copped for it, so I never got the recording of Bob Monkhouse.
I saw him, I was working in Bailey's in Birmingham, and I was on about 9 o'clock, and then I'd go straight over to the night out, and I watched him 5 different nights, and he did 5 different shows. Incredible, and all topical.
He was absolutely splendid.
He was just incredible. I could watch him hour after hour after hour. Brilliant Bob Monkhouse.
Lovely.